Today there are a lot of updates from the Zaporizhia region. Here, the most intense fights took place around Piatikatki. First of all, today, Ukrainian fighters have finally provided visual confirmation that Piatikatki is under total Ukrainian control. The fighters of the 128th Assault Brigade stated that they captured lots of Russian ammunition. Interestingly, yesterday Russian sources reported that they conducted a tactical retreat and safely moved back to more reliable positons around the settlement. However, today, Russian sources confirmed that by attacking Russians from two sides, Ukrainians cut off all retreat routes, took Russian forces into a pocket and completely eliminated Storm Ossetia Battalion together with their commander, meaning that more than 300 Russian troops together with equipment were destroyed. Today Ukrainian forces finished regrouping and launched the next series of attacks. Yesterday, I told you that Ukrainians would likely launch 2 attacks on the flanks and one towards Zarebianka, and this is exactly what happened today. Russian sources reported that the fighters from the 128th Assault Brigade advanced from the western part of the village. If we look at the topographic map, we can see that these are the tactical heights that Russians supposedly retreated to. The engagements were extremely heavy because it turned out that at the same time, Russian forces decided to conduct a counterattack. Fortunately, prior to the attack, Ukrainians spent all the time digging trenches and fortifying the western part of the village against such a counterattack, so, during the encounter battle, Ukrainians rolled back to their newly formed defensive positions and repelled the attack. Select Russian sources claimed that Piatikatki was recaptured by Russians. However, even the most prominent Russian sources stated that this is false. After this encounter battle, the intensity of fights in this region decreased, as both parties were taken by surprise and did not have enough resources to launch the second wave, especially given that simultaneously, another big battle was happening in front of Zarebianki. Russian sources reported that Ukrainians advanced from the forest and assaulted the first line of trenches and fortifications on the line. Several Russian sources mentioned that these Russians conducted a tactical retreat to the hills around Zarebianka, but noted that Ukrainians could not take the emptied positions due to the intense artillery fire. Ukrainian sources reported that Ukrainian forces successfully breached 2 Russian strong points in a tree line on a small hill and continued penetrating Russian defenses deeper and deeper. Ukrainian sources also reported that in fear that Russians would run out of reserves and see a complete collapse of the front line, Russian forces decided to increase the artillery support of the units on the ground by redeploying more guns to this region. Ukrainian intelligence discovered that Russians are relocating thermobaric artillery systems TOS-1 and also tanks and multiple launch rocket systems somewhere around Dolinka. Unfortunately for Russians, such redeployment processes recently turned out to be deadly. Ukrainian Melitopol mayor reported that around 2 days ago, when Ukrainians had just launched the first attack toward Piatikatki, Russian forces decided to reinforce these troops by relocating heavy equipment from the Kakhovka region. However, the column never got to the front because Ukrainian partisans destroyed the column, likely by detonating explosives on the road. He also added that Ukrainian partisans blew up an important railway connection just south of Melitopol, which further complicated Russian logistics and made it significantly harder to plug the holes in the defense line.